Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I can hear you. I turned the microphone. Should I go live? Oh, hello everybody. Mark, I'm not seeing my go live button here on the stream. Hey, Mark. set. Hey, everybody. Oh, okay. Well, I'm ready whenever you are. I can hear you fine.
No, I know you can, but OBS isn't going through. Okay, there we go. Okay, going into it right now. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to Forever Conscious Research Channel and Overwatch Project and Overwatch Channel. Dan is with me tonight, and we're going to be discussing aliens, abductions, entity interference, and if you look at the top where the topic is, I still have to finish filling that out, so it's not complete. But Dan, it's great to be with you tonight, my friend, and how you been?
I'm doing well. How are you, Mark?
Hanging in there.
Yeah. We all have our little things we have to go through, huh?
That's for sure.
My little Chihuahua's got a surgery tomorrow morning.
Oh, what's that about?
Just a growth, like a sort of like a tumor. They don't think it's cancer or anything, but
like a skin tag type thing, and just trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, so they're gonna analyze it, of course, but they don't think it's anything cancerous. I just don't like have to wait for them to get through anesthesia and everything. It's.
Oh yeah, that's always the worst. Having to wait for them to have to drop them off there early usually, and then they're there for who knows how long, and they're probably not even being, they're not even going through the procedure yet, and they're already there for who knows how many hours, locked away amongst strangers and a bunch of other barking dogs. Can't be fun.
No. But tonight should be interesting. It'll take my mind off everything. We have quite an interesting topic. This is going out by a little bit of a special request there for Lindley up north.
Yeah, for Lindley, our good friend Lindley.
Yes. So, should we get started?
Yeah. How do you want to start off? I'll leave the floor to you to do the intro.
Okay, so I have not really covered UFOs in any great detail on my channel in all the videos I've made because I've been more focused on the afterlife, reincarnation, etc. But there is a tie-in to the UFO phenomena with all this. I would say that UFOs, and I think you're the same way, Mark, from what you've told me, as probably the thing that I have researched the most in my entire life, because I think I started when I was like 7 or 8 years old.
It's crazy. Like we're very close with when we started. Yeah.
I was always fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. As soon as I learned about it, and of course, back then it was always like they're aliens from their planet, and it was a very simplified view of things. I went to the public library. This was pre-internet days, and I would take out every book I could, or if I was in a bookstore, I don't know if you remember Walden Books at the mall. Usually Walden Books, I would search for books on UFOs. I used to have quite a number of them. A lot of them came from the library. But I have to also say, as it was the longest thing I've ever researched, I still don't have any solid, like, I talk about when I talk about the afterlife, the astral plane, the reincarnation system, there's a lot of evidence and witness statements from near-death experiencers, out-of-body experiencers, where you can piece together the whole system, how it works, and it's kind of like much easier to figure out what is going on between our temporary mortal existence here in our human avatars, and then after we pass on and what goes on in the astral plane, it's much easier to figure that out than the UFO phenomena.
Yeah, it's well,
But
I think the big reason for that is that it's just been littered with endless disinfo. And we're talking about what are we going on? Almost like we're getting damn near like what 90, 100 years, something like that. I mean, we're
yeah,
getting close. Getting close.
sure. And I think in different interpretations of the same phenomena went on before that, before technology, they were, possibly interpreted as other things like spirit beings or fae or demons, etc.
Yeah, and like
But
goblins and all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
Jinn.
goblins. Yep, jinn, yeah, all that stuff. Now, I have to say that one of the things that I benefit from my research into, the meaning of life, reincarnation, the afterlife, was that I was able to work myself out of being in all these little boxes. Like everybody's like so many people, not everybody, but so many people out there are either in some religious or spiritual box that can be debunked by the totality of information, or they're in some materialist box where, and it seems like that's all that they choose between is like some form of one of these mainstream religions or some kind of new age concoction or materialist atheism. That seems to be a few kind of core elements of what people fall into. But I learned pretty quickly that if you think outside those boxes, you can see more. One of the reasons that I named my whole thing Overwatch is because you can see a lot from an Overwatch position than you can if you're in the middle of something. And one of the things with UFO phenomena is that nowadays I see it as that it's different. It can be different things, and a lot of people with their theories have latched onto partial truth of one of them. So, for example, some of these are clearly government creations, military technology. Then you have the ones that may be connected to the astral plane, which is the ones I want to focus on, and then you have possibly beings from unknown origin. If you want to, some people want to say they come from other planets, different worlds, a different realm. However you want to, fix that the alien theory. So that's where I see there's probably three different phenomena going on, and these things are not, they kind of crisscross each other, but they're not the same thing. What do you think about that, Mark?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think that, not that I don't want to jump ahead of ourselves because we had an interesting discussion about this on the phone. But I tend to think that these are beings that are they're embedded into the system. And kind of like what we were talking about, I'm more along the lines of Jacques Vallée's interpretation. If I had to, if you had to stick a gun to my head and say, "Hey, pick something that you will closely relate with," that would be it. Now, that doesn't mean that he's completely, and I'm completely in everything he says, or a lot of things. I mean, but the majority of his interpretation of what the phenomenon is more along the lines of what I'm thinking. I think you have beings who are embedded into the system. They have the capability of coming in and out of our visual spectrum, and they're able to manifest themselves in front of us, or they're able to manifest themselves in front of others, and play their games. And sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're deceiver, trickster, manipulators. They play all sides of the fence. And I'm talking about in general because it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, how you have the Fae, the Jinn, the goblins, and how there are, like, the modern day abduction account lines up with the lore of experiencers in the past, like, to a T, like, very, very, like, spot on. And so I don't think that can be ignored. I think it's likely part of the control system, part of the deception system, for whatever reason it may be, whether it's to, have things go a certain way in this realm, to have certain direction go, have humanity go in a certain direction. I don't know, but that's my guess on it. All I do know is that there's, like, a correlation there, and that they are able to come in and out of our reality and even replicate sometimes, like, they look full-fledged human, kind of like what we see in after-death communication, or even, like, the people have, see grandma or mom or dad in the living room while they're sitting down. And sometimes they'll say, sometimes they'll freely admit that they look like a hologram. And then other times they'll say they look completely physical. Now, of course, that's up for interpretation. Who knows? Everyone's perception's different. And, if you're in the grieving process, perhaps you're not going to pay as much attention to detail in those moments. But, I'm kind of trailing off a little bit here, but,
No, I got you.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So one of my theories, which I talked to you about earlier, is that one of these phenomena are related to these beings that are in the astral plane that project themselves as authorities or as spiritual, some kind of spiritual, identifies like a religious figure, or they're the ones that out-of-body experiencers talk about, like Monroe, where you have, like, the entry director and the people that or not people, the beings that work inside the system here of this sloosh farm. And I think one of the theories I have, it could be wrong, but is that the beings that keep this system also may want to interact with it for whatever reason inside the physical area. So if the rules of the spirit and astral plane and the physical plane are kind of consistent, you can't do that unless you have a physical body. But the so-called aliens, or these beings, whatever they are, they would need a body. So we, the humans here, are incarnations of consciousness into a body that's designed to hamper us, to remove our memories, to dumb us down as much as possible, to weaken us as much as possible, to make us forget our immortality. So we have this biological programming about life and death and all this bad stuff. But for if you think of the mechanism for incarnation, I think you could easily have a fully adult, perfected body, or one of these grays, or any kind of body you want. It's just an avatar. And then the beings that manipulate this system, that they have a method of incarnating or for lack of a better word, entering one of these avatars, and now they can be in the physical with some kind of super physical technology, and that this technology and these physicalized beings are from the astral plane, and in these so-called ships or whatever, they can interact with the physical earth realm here and do whatever it is that they do here, whether it is to perpetuate some kind of alien or abductions or whatever it is they're doing. And that's one of the phenomena. That's a UFO phenomena. And that's just an idea I had. Part of it comes from a description from one of Robert Monroe's books, where he described a version of Earth where people were able to just enter and exit like perfected human bodies at will. Like they come and experience the physical plane, and then they can leave and come back. And I seem to remember reading something about that in one of his books. Do you remember that, Mark?
You and I think are on the same page with that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was in Far Journeys.
Right. So he mentions this, and it made total sense to me, because I'm like, well, why would you have to enter the physical reality as a baby if it's just a body? I also, before I forget, doing all this, and some of this stuff has been memory hold. I cannot find it online anymore. That I did a couple videos just recently about search engines and how to do better searching on the internet, and I discussed like this whole concept of the dead internet theory and stuff like that. But some of this stuff I remember from like the 90s or the 80s, or in some of these UFO books I would read, or documentaries, or interviews I've seen with people, abduction people. I remember some cases where people described being, taken, and that something would happen to their physical body, and the so-called, alleged aliens or whatever they were, the human abducted human's body would become damaged, or even I think I remember cases where they just wanted to demonstrate that it's just a body, you're not your body, and they would destroy the body and then copy it, and then transfer the abductee out of their former body and into a complete copy of of themselves in a different body. And that made me think, like, so you don't have to lose your memories, you don't have to go through the whole process here with the hypnagogic state and the brainwashing and all the other stuff, that horrific stuff that goes on when you incarnate here as a human infant, and grow up from there. And that these aliens were demonstrating in some of these abduction cases, which I can't find anymore. I've looked, I can't find them. That they would just, talk about the human body as a container. It's just a container. Yeah. They would mention it as a container. And, just because they're part of the system, just like certain people in here that are, high up on the information media chain, they're part of the system, but you still can get truth from them when they talk, right? So, Mm-hmm. That's just, it's really crazy. It's a crazy theory, I guess. I don't know how other people feel about it, but that's one aspect of the UFO phenomena that I think that goes on here.
Yeah, I don't think you're crazy at all. I think there's a couple things that go on. Like, they obviously have their minions who are set up and ready to perform, ready to act, and ready to, designate duties so that things function the way they deem, the way they want them, the way they wanted things done. And I would imagine if something is not up to their specifications, that they will facilitate a meeting or a connection or something, whether that's in a actual physical body or whether it's an actual physical temporary body that's there on standby, or if it's a in the astral form, who knows? But I agree with you. I think it's probably something along those lines because I really feel that most have no clue what's going on here, and that to have that level of knowledge, you really need to be high up in the food chain. But then there's like the easy route too. Like this certainly can't be discounted. Like just possession alone. They are really good at being able to possess and take over others and hijack bloodlines. So much so that they will easily do the bidding because they believe in, this, that, if they sacrifice or they perform these rituals or that they will benefit from it. And then kind of once you get a hold on a bloodline or an individual, and then it kind of reverberates down the bloodline, then they're easily controlled because they don't know any other type of life. They've been kind of brought into that life. And then as their family continues to grow and they learn things, in that they can communicate, they can connect with these beings, whoever they are. But let's just say, for sake of the argument, matrix controllers, they're able to kind of do that too. So so I think those are the likely possibilities. And of course, transmuting into a body is, why wouldn't they do it?
Yes, I think they have to in order to be physical. Now there's
and
abduction
keep
cases.
control. If they have to really say they have someone at the top of the food chain, Dan, and they're not doling out the duties that they want to their specifications. Well, what would be a better way than to come into a physical body that is jacked up and threaten them and say, hey, get your ass in line. This is what we want done. I mean, could totally see that type of thing happening. Of course, it's all opinion, right? We're just shooting from the hip here, but
yeah, there's so much mashup of information. There's I should let everybody know that, and I may have mentioned this before. I'm not sure, but I have 2 separate times witnessed absolute, the classic UFO on 2 different occasions. And the first one, matter of fact, I'm going to show you what it looks like because there's a historical case where the UFO looked exactly like what the one I saw. So I'm going to go
and how
into
old were you at this time?
I was young, 9, 10, maybe 11 at the most. It was in New Jersey, and that's where I lived at the time. And I was in my backyard playing. It was, the 70s, so you have mostly play outside,
Sure.
There's not like I can go on my Xbox and there is no technology like today to distract you. So I was just playing in my backyard. I forget what I was doing, throwing a ball or something, or playing. And then I lived near an airport, which was about maybe 4 or 5 miles away from where I was. Not a big one, but a smaller airport. And I was also in the Cub Scouts and stuff like that. So I knew compass directions, and I knew which way north was. So this thing caught my attention. It was a dark gray kind of object, and as a kid, I was very familiar with aircraft because they would fly over my house as one of the routes the planes would take off and land. It was a position where from the west, if I was facing west, I would be in my backyard. I would be looking at the track of one of the runways. So when I was in my backyard this one day, I had caught my attention was this like object because it wasn't flying like a plane. So I was very familiar with aircraft, the noise they made, the helicopters. Plus, there was a National Guard station there, and their military helicopters would, fly over sometimes. So and little planes and private jets, stuff like that. So this day, the object caught my attention because it wasn't flying like a plane. It was going in a zigzag pattern. It would be going, coming toward me from the north. So it was flying in a direction that would have put it pretty close to the airport track at some point. So I was watching it. It caught my attention, and I was like almost stunned by kind of like, what is that thing? It didn't make any sense. I was trying to process what it was. As it got closer, and it made absolutely no sound. There was no engine noise or nothing, and I finally could discern that it was an actual flying saucer. And the shape and description of it. Later, I found a historical case from, I think, 1950s. I'm going to bring it up on the screen here in a second. This thing.
You're breaking up on us. You're breaking up on us, Dan. Sorry. Yeah, you said you were going to take up the picture. Yep, we can hear you now. But you said you're going to bring up the picture, and then we heard it broke up. So.
Oh, I'm looking at the stream health here. Let me see. It says healthy stream. Excellent. I don't know. Anyway, I was watching this thing. It was a classic, dark gray or metallic gray flying saucer with a very smooth bottom, and it had kind of like slightly wider base, and then it kind of canted up, like the whole classic thing. And on top, it had like this kind of like weird little stubby. I couldn't say it was an antenna, but it kind of looked something odd like that. Well, there's a historical case. Let me bring it up on the screen here. Hold on. Share. Okay. Hold on, let me find it. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Overwatch.
Can everybody see that?
Yeah, now it's up here.
Okay, the McMinnville UFO incident with photographs. It was from the 1950s. Now, this UFO here, which I'm going to blow up so you can see it. This photograph is pretty famous. And you see, this is what I saw. It was extremely identical to this. Let me bring up the other picture, which shows it from a different perspective when it kind of tilted over. So this thing was flying in a short zigzag pattern. So it wasn't going left, and it would right and left. It was flying in a very the north to the south. And then as it came parallel to like the runway direction, it made a turn to the east, and it flew right over my house. I'm watching this thing. And before it got to my house, when I was finally able to process what I was looking at, I went bananas. I was screaming for my dad to come out because screaming at the top of my lungs because I wanted anybody to see this before it disappeared. So my dad came out. He's like, "Oh, what are you yelling about?" And I said, "Look," and I pointed to it, and he watched as it came from the north to the south. And at this point, you could see clearly it's a flying saucer. And then it turned to the east, and it simply zigzagged its way into the distance, and eventually, went out of sight. Now, that was the first time. And then when, my dad was very skeptical about everything. And I still remember, even when he was near his 80s, we would sometimes talk about that whole incident. And he would say something like, I know I saw it, but I still don't want to believe it.
Yeah, that's cognitive dissonance on display.
Right. So this thing, this flying saucer, whatever, that's it, no sound, broad daylight. It was a clear day, very few, if any, clouds, and it was a nice blue sky. I mean, it was crystal clear what I was looking at. Of course, this completely reinforced they're aliens and flying saucers.
For sure. How could it not?
Right. I'm only 10, 11 years old, whatever I was at the time. Now, the second time was here in the South in Florida. I was actually I was in the house, but people were outside. Other people saw it first and called to me, and I went outside to see what they were talking about. And it was at nighttime. This was a nighttime sighting. Now, a lot of people out there also may not know that I have had some flight training. In the late 90s, I took flight lessons, and I flew in a small, like, Cessna 172. So I was familiar now with flight dynamics and what planes can and can't do. I had gone through the trouble of it was a hobby for a while. While I could have afforded it back then, and then I couldn't afford it anymore, so I had to stop. But the thing that helped me realize is what I saw here in Florida was that this object completely violated what any conventional aircraft that we have can do. Now, I don't know if it was a military, government, or something, but it was not the normal helicopter aircraft. Nothing could do what this thing did. So this was first, the lights were all wrong. It was a lit up object, and it seemed to be, the lights were pulsing, almost like they were turning. It looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. It wasn't that big, but it was definitely moving. And then what it did was it came toward my house here, and then it made no sound. Again, these things have frequently get reported that they make no sound, but this thing had made no sound, and then it maneuvered flying horizontally, and then it maneuvered into an upward movement straight up, and until it disappeared. Now, aircraft can't do that. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to suddenly change direction, but not really doable. It would take so much energy.
You broke up again, Dan. You said it takes a tremendous amount of energy, and then what?
To make a maneuver like that. If you're going to go from a horizontal trajectory and then go immediately with no curve, no turn, you're just kind of like going to go straight up. That is not something that can be done. And especially the way this thing did it. I was watching this thing. It made no sound. And again, I'm living pretty close to, one of those small airports, and there's helicopters that fly around here all the time. I see them there at night, during the day, private jets. Plus, now I have familiar with how the planes work because I took flight lessons, and this thing was not anything that is, that we're told even exists. So it was another UFO, and that was at night, though. Of course, some people, including Lindley, when I had the opportunity to talk to him, brought up the fact that why did they have lights?
Yeah, why?
Which is
they made it this far. Do they really need fucking lights?
I mean, they're not trying to comply with FAA regulations because their lights don't match what aircraft are supposed to have anyway. You're supposed to have the red, the green, the taxi lights, the landing lights. This thing had lights that would confuse any pilot because you couldn't. It was like red to yellow to blue, and it was kind of twirling, or at least the lights were twirling around. And this, could have been some military craft, some top secret thing. I don't know. This is, of course, we're talking like 2014, 2015. At this point in time, I'm just getting really starting to get deep into the research of, like biblical research and, all that stuff that I was going through back then. So I'm still thinking this is, alien craft or whatever. And I reported it to MUFON, believe it or not. And the guy from MUFON said that I was not the first person to report this craft here. And there were other sightings in Florida. So and Florida is a bit of a hot spot for UFOs. I'm sure you're aware of that, Mark. We are famous down here for
We're famous for all sorts of shit. Especially our insanity. Or it's like a trademark down here.
Listen, there are two things. Okay, so I've lived in New Jersey. I've lived in Florida. There are two common comical relief things in many, many TV shows and movies. Is they will always bring up New Jersey and Florida. They are constantly mentioned. And
I always
TV
like
shows.
how New Jersey was called the armpit of the nation. It's so fitting. Because as soon as you go over the George Washington Bridge, it's like, oh, and you got to go down that New Jersey Turnpike. It is horrible. Yeah. You got to hold your nose for 20, 30, 40, 50 miles.
Yes. Also, all these links, any links I'm showing anybody tonight, I've already put in the description section of the video. So, and after it processes and stays, it should be there. These should be below. What I'm showing now is unbelievable that I was able to find this one, because this one was memory hold. Is the in 1985 there used to be a
why don't you explain what memory hold is? Just so some people who don't know what it is.
Disappeared. The information used to be there and it is now gone. It's vanished, right? That's pretty much what it is, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me switch.
Thank you, Knack, for your very kind and generous super chat. I appreciate you, my friend.
Let me switch which.
Okay, so we're going to a new screenshot.
Yeah, we're gonna go to a new one. Okay.
Overwatch
let's see if that works.
All right.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. I wish I could play this, but it'll probably be, copyright problem, so I can't do it. But listen, I'm going to put the link in there so you can see it. 1985.
Scroll down, too. Like, to the description, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Oh, to the
and the title
thing here, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you see here, what
I was going to bring that up, too.
Yeah, it's you can't think for yourself or investigate things for yourself. We have to put things in context for you.
I call that like the confirmer. Like
Yeah, the
if that's
confirmer.
there, it's a badge of honor. It's like, oh,
Right.
okay, I'll look
So,
into something more. Not even joking.
exactly.
Not even joking.
No. Yeah. So this made an impression on this YouTuber, obviously, and just in case, I grabbed this and downloaded it because I didn't want to, in case it disappears. If it does disappear, and people tell me this link becomes dead or whatever, I will repost it on Odysee or BitChute or some place that they don't care. Anyway, yeah, in the 1980s and into the 1990s, used to be an HBO docu-series that was called America Undercover. They covered all kinds of topics, but they did one episode about UFOs. It was, I recommend everybody watch this video. This is like a 55-minute video. It is a little bit, low resolution because we're talking about 1985 television. But this documentary, I thought, was like the most impressive UFO documentary I'd ever seen and ever have seen. It didn't try to explain or tell you what it was, what UFOs were, but the cases that they examined here were mind blowing. And the that one guy was in this. They always had the. I don't know if you remember him, Mark, the official debunker. He would be in every freaking UFO thing in the 1970s and 1980s, and then later it came out.
Go ahead.
Talking about,
I
he was
can't think of his name. It's the guy. Actually, I think he lived in Florida.
he was obnoxious, pompous. A pompous ass. He was the most annoying thing in every documentary or in search of episode when they threw him in there to give the counterpoints. And he was just unbelievable. So he's in this documentary. Of course, later, now we have a totally different narrative, right? Now we got the official government version is that they are real, right? And they've also rebranded them to UAPs. We don't want to call them UFOs anymore. We have to control the language and manipulate how things are called, so we invent things that, and pretend like we always use these terms like UAPs, cyclone, bomb, or whatever it is they call them. Weather channel. Yeah. I mean, it just all of a sudden a new weather guy will start using. And the first time I heard that, I'm like, what the hell? Why are they changing the name of something? But it makes total sense when you know how they try to manipulate the language to control how you think about things. So now suddenly, the screen share disappear, or is it still?
Oh yeah. I didn't know if you were going to play anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, you know what?
There it is.
Looks like I'm sharing two screens there. That's weird.
No, it's just us and the whatever you're sharing.
I see. Okay. All right. The whole thing with the funny thing is that the debunker in this documentary, it later gets confirmed that he was like a paid debunker. He was paid to do it. So back then it was all debunk. Now it's like, oh, they're real. Look, we're chasing them with our jets. I mean, I don't know what they're doing or why they're doing that. I have a few theories, but that's what I mean. It is very frustrating to research UFO phenomena because there's so much crap with it. The other thing, if you want to research the afterlife and you can get your head out of the whatever brainwashing you grew up with, and maybe it's because so many people are brainwashed into one of these camps, like they're religious or they're materialist, and that's all that they will bounce back between. So nobody cares about us out here, the few that figure out that there's something else going on. But with UFOs, they clutter the information stuff out there. I don't have any idea what is for sure is going on. There's theories, but I mean, what do you think, Mark?
No, I mean I'm with you. I'm with you. It's who knows, right? Nobody knows. And it is, there's so much disinfo out there on this topic that it boggles the mind, and you have to kind of reroute yourself to what you believe, what you think. I remember embarrassing, but I remember in being like probably like 14 years old, 12, 14 years old. And I mean, it's embarrassing now, but it's not embarrassing thinking at the what age I was. But I believe that the alien autopsy was possibly real. I mean, I was like, oh shit, maybe it's real.
Overwatch's screen
Oh, what happened here? Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was a possibility, and I don't know. It's been an interesting adventure, but like you and I are probably on the same page age wise when we started looking into some of this, because I've shared this story a couple times. When I was with my father, we were driving towards like on a certain highway, getting on the freeway and heading north. And he went out of his way to tell me that, son, X amount of years ago, he said he was on his way to college. Like he was going back and forth to his college, and it was off to the right. He saw a UFO over the trees, and the UFO kept traveling north, and he gunned it and followed the UFO for as far as he could. And it literally went all the way up to where he was at school, and that was like right around an hour, little under an hour. And so that always stuck out in my head, because it's like, here I have my dad telling me about an experience that he had. And then, of course, I'm seeing things on TV that are reassuring me that these things are possible. And so that kind of started me on my journey, too. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I would say, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. And so, and then, of course, I went crazy into Roswell and the alien autopsy. And the alien autopsy, I would thought, like, even though there was all this stuff out there saying, oh, it's fake and this and that, I was like, oh, well, maybe it's real. Maybe it's true. Maybe everything does come from outer space. Maybe they do have the aliens. So, I mean, like, it was like a conspiratorial mindset, even like at, 8, 9, 10, however old I was, like questioning things. But, hats off to my parents for always saying, question everything, don't just believe everything you're told. So I thank them for that, because I think that's a really important thing that everyone should be brought up with. Whether that's going to pan out or not is a whole nother story. But being able to question and observe and not just buy into anything willy-nilly is a really important value that should be instilled on children. And just to kind of, wrap this thought up, I've been working in the background, writing up multiple pages of notes for parents, because I've gotten this request a lot where parents have reached out and said, what do I do? Like I have a young child at home or children at home, and like I want to be able to share this with them, but I don't want to scare the shit out of them too. And so I'm kind of working on an outline of how to approach it, how to share it with the younger ones. But the most important thing is that you know your children better than anyone, and that You know, dropping the seed, no matter what it is, the most important seed is that they have an open mind, that they question authority, that they question everything and anything, and not just believe what is hand fed to them by the system out of convenience and deception. So, anyways, that's my kind of that's it.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Roswell. I just want to go back to. I'll share the screen again. Hold on.
Sure.
In that documentary, which does have an
Overwatch is
internet
joined.
movie database link, you can see it here. Now, there is. This is the guy. This is the debunker here, Phil Klass.
Oh, yes, Philip Klass.
He's the professional debunker.
And he's, look at
But-
this, author and military expert.
Yes, military.
And
expert.
Stanton Freeman, he's a total deep state asset, 100%.
Yeah. Now, in this documentary was
So is
probably
Hynek. Jesus.
yeah, but in this documentary they had a very detailed interview with Jesse Marcel, which you never see in any other documentary. He was the Air Force guy that was the
son.
first guy on the scene there at Roswell.
What? Oh, wasn't that? What? Isn't Jesse the son of?
No. See, that's the thing. This documentary has the actual guy. Not that's one of the reasons
okay.
it's really one of the greatest UFO documentaries. This guy, it is very detailed, going over a Roswell case and Jesse Marcel
All right,
telling
but
his
can I
version.
ask you what you believe about Roswell?
Well,
And
I'm
you have
not
Ronald
positive.
Crawley there too. Just gonna
Yeah,
point that
yeah.
out.
As far as
Crowley.
Roswell goes, what I'm certain of is that there's something happened at Roswell, and I know this not because of what people say happened at Roswell, but because the government, the government people in the 1990s lied twice. So there's 3 different lies about Roswell. 3 different lies. The first lie.
Yeah, but they lied the day after it happened, dude.
Yeah, that's the first lie. The first lie is the day after it happened. In because the Roswell story wouldn't go away, and it wouldn't go away because the guy from the base told the news reporter they had a flying saucer and that crashed, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like, like this is the military guy from the base, the press officer told the news that they had this. And because that story simply would not be killed, they couldn't make it go away. In the 1990s, if you remember, they had a whole.
But what if it's a disinformation campaign, though?
It could be, but
Well, that's
that's
what
the
I
thing.
really think it is. Everything,
they're
in my
going-
opinion, points to that.
They went out of their way on the Roswell incident for some reason. And so in the 90s, you had a whole relaunching official investigation. And then they created like this whole story that it wasn't a weather balloon, it was a top secret weather balloon. And then
It's top secret. Okay.
yeah, it's top secret weather balloon. And then people were like still asking, well, you never explained the bodies that people saw. You never explained the bodies. Why would there be bodies on a weather balloon crash? And so now they get caught in another lie, and then they lie again, and they said that it was they were test dummies for ejection seats for aircraft, except that in 1947 that didn't exist. So then
but it's like to muddy the waters, dude. Like Roswell, I don't take anything like Rendlesham Forest and Roswell, all this stuff. Like, I just think they're big, massive psyops on the public. I don't think there's anything to them. I really don't.
Right.
I don't think there's a shred of anything. I mean, there's Patterson Air Force Base. That's another one. Like, for some reason, all these operations
Overwatch
that are
stream joined.
all these big operations that are in the UFO community and have been around for who knows how long are just, there's always these military connections, and we got to be really careful with her.
Yes, I just
Okay,
want to mention
so
that this is
yeah.
linked. This is one of the links. Her interviews and her books are on this YouTube page, so you can go look at her. But she may have been on to something, and we all know how she ended up.
Yeah. No, I think she definitely had. I definitely think she put out a lot of truth. Let's put it that way.
Right. So something for people to check out, right there.
Yeah.
And let me see if there's any other interesting. Yeah. So.
But I mean, like,
No,
what do you think, like, overall, like, about Roswell?
I don't know. I actually think that because having worked inside and observed the incompetence that goes on in the wonderful land of governmentardism, which which is was employed in and at a lower level for a whole career. I have to say that I'm it could be just a whole series of incompetent moves that something happened, and then there was a cover up about it, and they did a really bad job at covering it up, mostly because the press officer screwed up the press release.
Did you? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. They
Yeah,
screwed up the
and
press release.
I mean, there's other things that are kind of hard to say what they are exactly. In that 1985 documentary that we talked about, there is a case from New York State, UFO, massive nighttime UFO thing that was flying around this town near a nuclear reactor site for months, and it was caught on video. There's video in the documentary about this thing. It is clearly not aircraft. Is it a giant military craft? Why is it floating around where everybody can see it? In the 1980s, similar to the this thing was more round than anything, but you had like the whole Belgian UFO thing. Remember in the early 90s, where these giant chevron craft, and then the Belgian Air Force supposedly chased it. Are they ours? Are we experimenting with stuff over civilian areas, or just making people see?
Well, what about
craft?
the Phoenix Lights too?
Sure, very similar.
It's like
Now you're
these things
starting
are
into
meant to be seen. Like they're not like little bullshit little, a couple
No, they're
people see them
enormous.
in a field. Like these are massive events. And
Right,
and they
they're
were
enormous.
even mocked, and I mean I remember, Christ, when the Phoenix Lights thing happened, I was like, oh my God, this is the proof, this is the evidence, and they're covering it up, and they even made a mockery of it. The governor made a mockery of it and came out with the alien at the press conference, and I was convinced. I was like, oh my God, they're hiding something. But it's all one big psychological operation. I can't see it being any other thing. I just can't.
It could be.
That's just
it
me.
Could be.
That's just me.
No, it could be, but then you have to say that they decided to conduct this massive psychological operation as far back as 1940s.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I think they've been doing. Because I think they've been like one of the tools in their arsenal, in my opinion, is a fake alien invasion. Now, whether it'll happen or not, who knows? But if you prime the public for thinking that aliens are real, or that potentially aliens are real, and that UFOs are coming from another planet and, they're going to attack us and blah, 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 then you've primed the public to be not as freaked out when you hit the go button for your operation. But I think the fake alien invasion thing is one tool of many that they have in their arsenal. But in order to get that across, if they choose to use it, then they need to, put out operations that, gets in the public consciousness so that, everyone may freak out, or a number of people may freak out, but it's not going to be as chaotic when they decide, and if they decide to pull the trigger on that specific op.
Sure. Well, here's the thing that I feel about that is that they have that as a possibility.
And it's
I
up
guess
there. It's up there, right?
It's up there.
Can we at least agree on that?
Yeah, sure. And
it's high up there.
And it's a very simple formula for discerning the news. If they're telling you suddenly that look at the weird turnaround the news has done. They used to make fun of people that believed in UFOs. They used to debunk, make fun of, and this is regular. It's from the local regular news to the big network news. They would generally do that. It would be like make fun of, call them crazy, whatever. And then suddenly now, the news suddenly now wants you to believe that the government says they're real, and now we say they're real. And I'm like, what happened to all the theories about being crazy that reported? I mean, they just transition. It's like, we want you to believe this now. And before, we didn't want you to believe it. Now we want you to believe it. And I'm like, well, if you want me to believe it, I'm probably going to believe it less because you guys are a bunch of liars.
Yeah, but they've also,
liars.
like, I think the reason they've put this, that they can be so brazen, right? I mean, you and I see it, most of us in this chat see it. But the reason they can be so brazen is because they've primed the public through TV shows and media and movies and newspapers and these manufactured quote unquote space alien narratives. I mean, it goes way back. Like one of the if I recall, and I could be wrong, but like one of the first movies to ever be put out, again, I could be wrong, but I think one of the first movies it was a movie to be put out was about how aliens, some sort of weird species, they weren't called aliens, but came from the moon and invaded humanity or something like that. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, you go back to the 1950s again, like Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, but I'm talking like first film. Like, I don't know when the first film was, but I'm talking way back, like something with the moon, something. I don't know.
Right now, there was a super chat you had there, Mark, about Travis Walton.
Oh yeah,
to comment about Travis. Yeah, to comment about Travis Walton, I definitely think he's genuine. He's reporting exactly what he experienced. And he's honest about it. But, where did these beings come from? And it's same as Betty and Barney Hill. I think they were really telling people what they experienced. You have to wonder what the origin of their experience was.
The only I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Do these astral beings show up to also drive a narrative? Do they come, they used to come as, like you said, fae, goblins, etc. Do they now come as aliens?
And that's what Jacques Vallée talks about.
Yeah, so Travis Walton, definitely, I think, a genuine experiencer. and then even that, I mean, here Hollywood, they can't get anything right. So they remember they made a movie based on his experience, and they didn't even do that right.
Yeah, yeah.
They they messed up the movie. Well, the movie made based on his event wasn't even correct. I mean, they could have just followed the. Wasn't his story fascinating enough? Why would you want to alter
Yes.
it? Why? Just make a movie about what he experienced and try to make it as
Close to
real,
accurate as possible.
accurate as possible. I don't understand why Hollywood does that either. It's just like they give us these trash stories. Like you remember Gladiator, Russell Crowe, that movie.
Yeah.
They mismatched the emperors. They were hundreds of years apart, and then nothing in the story was accurate. Nothing.
Yeah, that's what's going on with the Assassin's Creed franchise right now. It's really
Yeah.
pathetic.
There's a lot of movies that I'm trying to find one now.
But I mean,
Yeah.
like on a side note with Walton, like I think there might be something to his story. I don't like Walton is different than someone like Whitley Strieber. All right, I'm probably gonna piss. See, like when you talk about stuff like this, like people look at certain individuals as like UFO or knowledge gods. Well, Whitley Strieber is a huckster. Okay, period, point blank. Okay, his story in the beginning it may be accurate. I'm not doubting in the beginning, but he has had so many evolutions, so many books, so many massive experiences to the point that it's mind-boggling, okay? And the chance of someone like him or anybody having the all these type I'm sorry, he just makes up shit, all right? So that's the difference, right? And you can see the progression. Kind of like there's an NDE or there's multiple NDEers out there. Not a lot, but there's multiple NDEers out there who pull the same bullshit, where they likely or more than likely had a very real experience. And I'm saying that Whitley Strieber probably did have something like that, and a number of these NDEers, which is only about a handful, right? But they had these experiences, and then all of a sudden, like as they move along, they need money, right? They need to juice things up, and all of a sudden they're having instant downloads and all this information and just spouting out all this stuff that they've experienced, all this information that humanity needs to know. But the only way to get it is to pay $14.99 and buy the audiobook and buy this and buy that. And then, by the time you're getting through it, it's like volume 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or 14. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Whitley Strieber seems like a good guy, but I don't believe that he's experienced everything that he's experienced. And I'm sure some people be like, oh well, I'm a Whitley supporter and stuff like that. Well, you know what, like just look at his track record and everything that he's put out. I'm sorry, it just doesn't fit, it just doesn't make sense. And I think he's pulling the chain of the public. That's it. And there are NDEers out there like that. So make of it what you will, but I'm just gonna say it.
Yes,
I don't give a shit.
well,
I don't care. Like I'm so sick of like protecting these assholes. I really am. I'm just sick of it, Dan. Like there's so many out there. Like not so many. Like it's just like a small percentage, but like they get brought up into this like deity status, Like, and they just like at some point, like, how much are you gonna believe? Like, when does like your red flag radar go off and say, "Oh, well, this guy's coming at me every year, every other year," or this woman, this girl, is coming at me every other year, presenting me with new information. Like, I'm sorry, like it flies in the face of the information that is consistent. Like someone, like a true NDEer, like for instance, like some of them may write a couple books. They might write a couple. Or they may update blog posts. And there are a number of NDEers out there and experiencers in general out there who will say, hey, well, I experienced, I had my NDE experience, and they'll write a book. Or I had my NDE experience, I'll write a book, and I'll do a few interviews, and, it's out there. And then they'll go away. And then you have some who will have blog posts and updates, and a lot of them do say, like, so I don't take this away from everybody, but a lot of them will say, like, oh, I started to get further clarity or more information about what happened during my experience. During my experience. That's the key word. So they get further clarity about what they went through. And some of them, yeah, they have like communications and yada, yada, yada afterwards, but it's not like to the point of it being like high octane racing fuel where you can put out a book every year or something like that and have like 12, 13, 14, 15 different topics. Like, I'm sorry. Like I feel I don't like... when my radar goes off, it goes off. I'm going to shut my mouth. That's it.
Well, to me, it's just I just examine it like an investigator. If I was listening to somebody give me testimony or statement about something.
Okay, but let me just interject. Like, that's fair enough. Like, I'm with you 100%. But when you have someone who knows the data, someone who knows the information, someone who has been around long enough and has had the opportunity to take that information and mold a story of their own to make it seem real, it isn't, that has to come into your kind of world, right? And say, there has to be some suspicion there.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, Whitley Strieber has been around forever,
Yeah. There's a little bit of a Mandela effect with him for me. I honestly believe that he had passed away years ago. And then one day I found out he's still around. Like, I thought he died. I could have sworn that, I don't know. It was a Mandela effect thing. Anyway, now.
Well, his wife died, right?
Oh, maybe that was it. It could have been confusing.
Yeah, because he wrote a book on it and talked about it. So I'm just, his wife talked about it.
Yes. No, I understand where you're coming from. One of the reasons that I can say, through my experience as an investigator, is that Travis Walton is a genuine experiencer. His story hasn't expanded in the years. It's been very consistent. He is quite frustrated, actually. He doesn't want to repeat it anymore. He got involved with that. They wanted to make a movie about his story, and they screwed it all up. So, I mean, he is one of the cases that I look at, a genuine case. He seems like a genuine person. He's not. In fact, it came out in the newest documentary made about his case that they tried to bribe his friends that witnessed his abduction into changing their story.
Yeah, you're talking about Travis, right?
Yeah, they tried to bribe his coworkers that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And they refused to take the money. And he's never been like the streamer type with the mega bucks, or you can have another case is a near death case. For example, Anita Morajani. Now here's a woman who was dying of cancer. Many medical studies have been done about her case. She was heavily medically documented because she was treated for her supposedly fatal cancer by several top doctors from different medical centers. And then she's on her deathbed, she's dying, and then she has this super NDE. And when she gets put back into her body, nobody can believe that she came back to life. And then she tells people calmly, like, "Hey, I'll be okay." And they think that she's going to pass on any minute now. And instead, she makes a complete recovery. Her body had been riddled with cancer. It was medically documented. She only wrote one book about it. She's given some interviews, but her story is absolutely fascinating. To me, it demonstrates the whole process where this whole system here is geared to make you believe that it's for that this whole human experience is for our benefit, and when you take these people come back with a belief system, it's all about love, it's all about learning. But when you're listening to what they're saying, it's obvious that they have been manipulated. It's like a cult mindset. The
100%.
many NDErs come back with this cult mindset of it's love and learning and light. And then when you're picking apart what they're actually saying, it's the exact opposite. Has nothing to do with learning.
Exactly.
There's very little love involved here. I don't know how do people define love, but sending somebody back here is not something that somebody that's loving would do.
Especially like if you like I was going through an NDE the other day of someone who drowned, and it's like she was sent back, and as she's sent back, it's like, oh, you made a good decision or something like that. And as she made a good decision, she ends up in her body submerged in water and choking on water.
Of
Yeah,
course.
what a great decision, right?
Fantastic decision. It's like,
It's just like, are you kidding me?
It is. It's only because, hey, look, the human condition is one of mental chaos and confusion. You have to really, really kind of be like your own hacker and overcome the mental filters and cognitive dissonance and backfire effect and all the other nonsense that you have to process out of yourself in order to even come close to understanding the truth about something. But the UFO phenomena, look, I don't know what it is. I don't have any answers for people on that one.
Well, I think to direct people, especially like with the abduction phenomenon, they can find, and if someone listening perhaps experienced that, there is some consistency, pretty good consistency with what we talked about earlier in the stream, and that's the fae, the goblins, the jinn, they're energy vampires.
Sure seems that way.
So, I mean, it just kind of falls right in. The Greys do that. Like, so many people who have abduction with the Greys, like they say they're emotionless. They don't have any feelings, or they don't care what happens to you, but they're going through something traumatic, whatever that trauma may be, and I'm not even going to expand on that, but most people know that. And it seems like one of the control systems, and perhaps it's to keep certain individuals who are more spiritually inclined and catch them early in life or at a specific time in their life so that they don't keep questioning. I know that's like way out there. Like, there's nothing to prove that. But perhaps
no, there's
that could be a
evidence.
reason.
No, I think there's evidence to support some of that because there are cases where a UFO abductee invokes some kind of religious terminology, and then the supposed aliens in one case, they recoiled, they fled away, used the name of Jesus, and they ran away.
Right.
And then, but you have then other cases, and this is where cognitive dissonance comes, because there's a couple of researchers I remember coming across where they were just full blown. Like evangelicals, and so we have, they use these selective cases to back up their belief system.
Oh, the NDE thing is the same way.
Yeah,
like Randy, what's his name? Randy, can't think of his name. He's the same way. There's so many channels out there that they just love to throw the religious bias at you for NDEs, and it's like, oh well, so someone runs across NDEs and they see a cross as the avatar, or they, if you scroll through, this is really important for anyone who's listening. There are these channels out there. Randy K was the one I'm specifically thinking about, but he's not alone. There's many out there. Like, and if you scroll through, and go through their video list, they will show consistently God, Jesus, sinning, redemption, the Bible, like key words that are all specifically geared towards getting you to fall into their bias, which is to keep you sucked into religion. And they're out there.
Yes. Yeah. So, and in the UFO community, there's these researchers that do that, but they conveniently, as I was doing my research, I came across this stuff. They conveniently ignore cases where somebody would invoke a religious, in the name of Jesus, I refute you or whatever, and then the aliens would laugh at them.
Yep.
So there are those cases. Now, so the alien phenomena can be very inconsistent, and it doesn't fit the narrative that people want to shove it into. So the religious narrative falls apart as soon as you find a couple cases like that. Then you're like, well, how do you explain that? Because that's not possible under your religious belief system. This can't happen. So that means that
if you're being honest with yourself, though.
Yeah,
you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, you got to be honest with yourself. Sure, absolutely. You gotta be aware of that. How all the trick. A lot of mythology has the trickster. The trickster being like Loki in Viking mythology. And this trickster appears in a lot of mythologies from all over the world. But I have to tell you, the biggest trickster is yourself when you're investigating this stuff. If you let yourself, do all these things in your head to keep some bullshit brainwashed belief system alive, because you've run into evidence that says, no, that can't be. This can't exist, and therefore your people are their own trickster. That's
well said. It's so true.
Yeah. So, So well, I don't know what else we can say about it.
I mean, I know you gotta run, and we're almost at midnight, and you got early morning tomorrow. So I don't know if you want to wrap up and say anything else before we close things out, but I want to give you the opportunity, Dan. It's always great having you.
Well, I just appreciate and I hope you feel better, Mark.
Thank
I
you.
hope you feel better. Uh, all the so much positivity comes from our audience. We have a few select people out there that just want to, be negative, but they're very tiny minority. Generally, it's like it's nice to know that we can share these ideas, and there's people out there looking for these answers. And even though we're a small, tiny number, um, it's nice. I'm glad I can interact with you and everybody on your channel and my channel. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's great that we're able to multi-stream, multicast, and don't forget to check out Dan at his channel, and it's Overwatch channel on YouTube altogether, and Overwatch Project on Odysee. And I know you opened up a Rumble channel, but you can find all the information at Dan's website, overwatchproject.com, and find links to everything, and then links to a bunch of his research and his resources and all that stuff. So feel free to check that out. And it's always great to have you, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you to everyone over on Dan's channel. It's really great that we can do this, and I'm glad the internet connection held up okay.
Oh yeah, and I did upload my first video to Rumble the other day, and
Nice.
I haven't put the Rumble button on my website, but I will in a few days.
Nice, yeah. So pop that up so we can get your subscriber count up. And I think I did read the other day, by the way. This, I don't know if it's true. Initially, when I signed up, you needed 100 subscribers to stream, and then it went down, I think, to 50. But I saw not that long ago, like last week or something, that maybe you don't need anything. So you may be able to stream no problem, and then we can multi-stream to all these platforms together, and cover more ground. And for those who are receptive or interested, that'll be an option. So
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Yes, thanks everybody. So are we wrapping it up then?
yeah, wrapping it up here, and I appreciate you all. And I'm probably going to head over to the Truth in Gaming channel. I'm not sure what I'm going to play, but there will be a link up shortly. And Dan, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks for giving me a call and suggesting this. And I hope everybody. This is kind of a different topic. We haven't normally done. I mean, you've done some UFO stuff, but I haven't.
Yeah,
so.
I did a deep dive in almost a 6-hour member stream. I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago. But
impressive.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to unpack in it. There's a lot, and there's so much deception and manipulation in this topic. Like I've been hesitant to talk about it. I'm not gonna lie.
It is very confusing. It's and because there's a lot of confusion out there. We're not crapping on anybody else's theories.
No. Well, besides Whitley Strieber. At least me. You don't have to back that up, Dan. But I'm just going to say my piece on that.
I did try to read one of his books once. I found it
Communion, right?
Yeah, Communion. That's right. I just didn't. I don't know. It wasn't my. I thought other cases were more interesting. I didn't know what to make of his, so I never really got too deep into the Whitley Strieber thing. I was more fascinated with Roswell and Travis Walton and cases like that.
Sure.
But anyway, all right. I'm going to be clicking off the stream now. Thanks, Mark.
See you, brother.
See you soon.
You take care of yourself, and we'll see each other again soon, all right?
Yes. See everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan. And thank you to everybody. I'm going to disconnect and stream, and we'll be headed on over to the Truth in Gaming channel for anyone interested. I'm going to play a little Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm just working on getting the stream link up for y'all. And Dan, if you happen to be listening, please don't forget to click the end stream button. I'm going to pop this up. Okay. All right, let's try this. We'll probably be about this stupid thing. Here we go. All right, my friend. So appreciate you all, and thanks for stopping by tonight. I mean, I have a lot more I can even say on this topic, but when you feel betrayed on something that you felt was so important when you were younger, leaves a bad taste in your mouth. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, my friends, take care of yourselves. All right, feel free to join us on the gaming channel if you'd like. See you soon.